We're going to learn now about all the possible participants in the processes and the roles. It says we already know all the options that allow us to define who will be the employee or employees that will manage a task. The following is a more detailed explanation of the most important options to assign tasks. We saw the options in the identity section and participants. But now we are just going to see all the different options in the appointed performer. Apart from the options explained during the course, there is the possibility of creating systems or customized hierarchies of assigned tasks through relations between families, generic roles, or other mechanisms. For more information about this type of assignations, you can check the documentation or ask consultancy for advice to carry out more complex implementations. Let's see now how to send a task to a role. Let's suppose you have to send a task to the company's director or coordinator. Some employee users must have these job titles assigned. As you know, job titles are created in a structure employee tree. An employee with several job titles will appear in several branches. An employee without a job title cannot access the application. Send an activity to a role. A role can be held by any employee, but the new assigned activities to this role get automatically transferred to the employee that holds the role. For example, I'm approving the budget task, so I might want to send the budget to the coordinator, G Masad. If I start a new process and the coordinator now is Sarah May, then she will be the one receiving the task. Why? Because the task has been configured so it goes to a role, in this case to the person that holds the coordinator role. Send an activity to an employee. The activities are in personal capacity. They don't transfer where the role changes, for example, a medical checkup task. The activities that have to be managed in a personal capacity require the use of singular roles. We will see this further on. Let's go to the application now to see what happens if a task goes to a role and the person that holds the role changes. So let's go to Structure, Families, Employees, to the tree, and create a new role. So we're going to add a number, 7, and a job title. That's going to be teacher. Save. And now I'm going to assign it to Anna Hill, that's already a manager. Anna Hill, and the assistant is going to be AP2. And save. If we go to Span now, we can see the role there. Okay, and we can see Anna and David. The only ones that are at the same level here, okay, are these two, okay, because we can see here the role and then the employee. In here we have the role, but we have two employees that are the same. And this is because this one is the assistant. Okay? Now, let's go to Structure now. Processes. Okay, and let's go to see the general configuration of this process, teacher participants. This is a process to show us all the different possible participants, okay? We can see here that in the start event, okay, we can choose the task to go to an employee or an external user. So we can see the different possibilities when we have an employee as the appointed performer and when they are external users. Okay, so if we go to the TP1 now, and we go to participants, we have as appointed performer Anna Hill as with the manager role. So now I'm going to change it to Anna Hill teacher, okay, the role we just created. As you can see, okay, as you can see here, when I go to set up an employee as the appointed performer, okay, I can see the roles next to the names, okay? So that's why some names are repeated, is because they have one or two or three roles, okay? So, for example, Anna Hill is repeated because she has two roles, as manager and teacher. So yeah, we have this one and save and exit. And now we can go to start a process. So let's find the right process. Choose participant, type of user. We're gonna select employee, okay, and start process. Okay, as we can see, is AP1 the one that receives the task. Okay, now I'm going to change the employee that hold the teacher role. And for that, I need to go to a structure, families, employees, okay, and to the family tree. Let's expand it. And now I want to change the teacher role, okay, and I want to change it to all, okay, and I want to change it to AP5, John Doe, okay, instead of Anna Hill. So save. Let's go back to my tasks. And let's start a process again. Type of user, employee, and start process. If I go to reports now, status running, proceed. And now we can see that the task is not sent to Anna Hill anymore because she's not the teacher anymore. Okay, so it's sent to John Doe. So we can see that the task really goes to a role and not to an employee. Let's go now to structure. The process we're working on. And if we go to participants, appointed performer, okay, we can see these options that we have already seen. Administrator of the class of task and star message creator. Okay, we need to remember that this option will only be available, okay, if the one that started the process was an employee. Okay, if it was an external, this option wouldn't be available here. As we have mentioned before, when we select the option employee, we are really selecting a role more than a particular employee, okay? As we have seen before, we chose Anna Hill teacher, but as soon as we change the role to John Doe, then the task was sent to John Doe, okay? Not to Anna Hill. We have already talked about these options, okay? So let's see what happens when we choose the option panel. We can choose this option when instead of having a fixed employee for the task, we want to be able to select it in the process. Okay, once we select panel here, we can see that these two options appear, general or group of fields. If we choose general, and it's going to be an employee task, we will need to choose a family type of term or an employee prefix. Here we have an employee prefix, so I'm going to choose this one. And save and exit. Save and exit. And if I go here and start process, I can go to the settings now. And I can see here that we have that field. And if I go here, employee, we can see there is a prefix. Okay. We can also check in the configuration that shows the value of the field. Okay. This is the value that we add there is the one that is going to take into account. So let's go back to the process. Type of user, employee. And I'm going to choose AP4. Okay. And start process. Oh, sorry. Employee. Start process. And if we go to reports now, we can see okay, that the task has been sent now to AP4 as we selected in the form. So let's go back now to configuration to change the appointed performer. So we can try another option. So teacher participants. And then we're gonna choose panel, but instead of a prefix, now we're gonna choose a family element type of term. Okay, the employee family. So save and exit. And let's go to start a new process. So employee, and this time we're going to use the family element type of term. Add employees as we mentioned before here in a family element, we can choose several ones, okay? It's not like in the prefix that we can only choose one. So I'm going to choose AP1 and AP2. Accept selection and save. If I go to this button, can you see task recipients employees? I can see I have AP1 and AP2, okay? The ones that I chose here. Now, I'm just going to show you real quick how we can configure this kind of button, okay? Although we will see it further on in more details in the course. So if we go to settings, we can have a look at the configuration of this button. So here we have the name, okay? And in add actions, we have see task recipients. Okay, see task recipients, and here it says class of task, and you can choose. Okay, in this case, we just chose the employee task. Let's go back now to the process. Okay, and here we chose AP1 and AP2, and now we're just gonna start the process. As it has been sent to AP1 and 2, several people, if we go to reports, and we go here, we can only see one of that people, okay? So you cannot see several ones. If the task has been sent to several people, you won't see it here. For that, we need to go to here and check. Okay, we can just finish it now. Okay, we could only go to the form, okay, and do as we were doing before. Okay, we will go to that button as we did before, and then it would show us who is the task sent to, okay? Remember that in a prefix, we can only choose one, but in a family element, we can choose several. It's just that it will show one, but when we go to this button, okay, that we configured, we could see all of them. Now we have seen when we choose an employee prefix from the panel to the appointed performer, and when we choose a family element and the differences.